Denver kept its secrets after dark. On the 42nd floor of a glass tower on Spear Boulevard, Harper Lane, stood in a silent hallway facing a door that suddenly felt too heavy to push. Her palm hovered inches from the wood. 5 years of tidy rules and careful distance, and now her heart was climbing into her throat over a man who signed paychecks for a living. Inside, a pen scratched across paper. One steady line, then another. Ethan Cole's signature had always looked decisive on company memos. Tonight, it sounded like a door closing. Harper swallowed and tried to slow down. She'd promised herself she would say it clean, say it once, and walk away if she had to. Yet, the closer she got, the more her mind filled with images she did not invite. Ava Cole. On the lobby sofa last month, sneakers swinging eyes fixed on the ceiling as she counted lights under her breath. Ethan crouched beside her, voice low and patient, turning the world into something Ava could hold. Harper had watched from the elevator and felt her chest tighten at the tenderness he tried to keep private. The pen stopped. Silence pressed against the door. Boston. She'd heard the word in chopped-up meetings and half-muttered calls. A 5-year relocation, a permanent chair, a fresh start Ethan called strategy with a face that never quite believed it. In her head, she saw the neat sticky note he loved, the kind he slapped on every crucial page. For Ava, stability. No risks. Her throat went dry. She'd built her career on boundaries, and somehow a 9-year-old who loved constellations had stepped right over them, pulling Harper with her. Ethan had followed too, with that rare, crooked smile he wore when Ava said something blunt and true, and he forgot to guard his face. Harper lowered her hand, then lifted it again. Her knuckles trembled once. She knocked. A chair scraped inside. Footsteps unhurried but alert. Ethan's voice came through the door, calm in the way calm people sound when they are bracing. "Come in." Harper turned the handle. The latch released with a click that felt too loud. Warm office light spilled into the hall. Ethan stood behind his desk jacket, off sleeves rolled to his forearms. His pen hovered over a document stamped in bold black letters, Boston Executive Transfer Agreement. His eyes lifted to hers, and for one beat the room held its breath. If you're enjoying the story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Before we go any further, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments today. Tiếp tục viết phần 2 của câu chuyện bằng tiếng Anh, đảm bảo độ dài phù hợp với số từ đã tính toán trước đó. Giữ cho đoạn văn liền mạch từ phần 1 và tạo sự chuyển tiếp mượt mà hướng đến phần 3. Nội dung cần đảm bảo tính liên kết hấp dẫn và đóng góp vào sự phát triển tổng thể của mạch truyện. Lưu ý đến việc phát triển nhân vật, nhịp độ câu chuyện và chiều sâu cảm xúc khi tiếp tục phát triển cốt truyện. Tuyệt đối không sử dụng dầu gạch ngang. Không nhá hàng báo trước part 3, tránh các câu như what comes next, it would, sẽ. Không tổng kết đạo đức hay tuyên bố bài học. Không liệt kê kế hoạch tương lai, không meta-commentary. Không emoji, không hashtag trừ khi nằm trong caption gốc được trích dẫn. Lưu ý các phần sau giữ nguyên phong cách Việt. Đã suy nghĩ trong 13 Part 2. Harper did not speak. Not yet. She stood just inside Ethan's doorway, feeling the warmth of the office lights on her face, seeing her reflection faintly in the glass behind him. His pen paused above the Boston document as if the ink had suddenly turned to stone. The silence tugged at something in her chest, and memory rose with the sharp clarity of a photograph. 3 months earlier, Harper Lane arrived in Denver with a single suitcase, a leather portfolio, and a promise to herself that this job would be clean. She had been hired to rebuild a bruised culture at Cole and Whitmore Innovations, after a messy internal complaint had cost them 2 senior managers and a handful of investors' trust. The board wanted order. Harper had built her reputation on exactly that. The lobby smelled like cedar and fresh coffee. A wall of glass overlooked the city, the mountains sitting beyond it like a painted backdrop. Harper checked in with the front desk, accepted a badge, and followed a young operations coordinator up a wide staircase lined with framed patents and glossy magazine covers. "Everyone's a little intense," the coordinator said, trying to sound casual. "But you probably already heard that." "I heard they move fast," Harper replied. The coordinator smiled with relief. That too. Harper's office was on the same floor as executive leadership. The space was bright spare and too perfect, as if someone had erased every sign of human mess before she arrived. She set her portfolio on the desk, opened her laptop, and began reviewing the onboarding schedule. Meet the department heads. Review policy gaps. Align with legal. Introduce a confidential reporting channel that people would actually trust. A knock came before she finished her first sip of coffee. Harper looked up, expecting the coordinator. Instead, a man leaned into the doorway like he belonged there because he did. Ethan Cole was taller than she expected. Dark hair that looked like it had been combed with a hand rather than a brush. A tailored shirt without a tie, calm eyes that stayed steady a beat longer than polite. "You must be Harper Lane," he said. His voice carried a relaxed confidence that could have been charm or control depending on the room. "And you must be Ethan Cole," Harper replied. He glanced at her nameplate, still wrapped in protective plastic. "The board talked about you like you were a myth, the person who walks into a burning building and convinces everyone to form an orderly line." Harper kept her expression neutral. "My method is less dramatic. I prefer to prevent the fire." A brief smile tugged at Ethan's mouth. A preventative HR director. "That explains why Grant looked nervous in the meeting this morning." Grant Whitmore, Harper asked. Ethan's gaze flicked away for a fraction of a second, then returned. "My business partner. He'll introduce himself soon. He likes to do it with an audience." Harper closed her laptop with a quiet click. "Then I'll be sure to clap at the right time." Ethan laughed, once surprised, like the sound escaped him without permission. It made him look younger, less like a headline and more like a man who slept badly and held too much. "I'm glad you're here," he said, and the words sounded more personal than the situation required. He seemed to realize it too. His posture shifted, the CEO mask sliding back into place. "I wanted to welcome you. And I wanted you to know I won't be the kind of executive who asks HR to cover up bad behavior. If someone's crossed a line, I want it handled." Harper studied his face, searching for performance. She found tired sincerity tightly contained. "That's good to hear," she said. "Because I won't be the kind of HR director who pretends a problem disappears because a title says it should." Ethan's eyes warmed. Fair. He stepped back as if to leave, then paused. "One more thing. People will test you here. Not because they dislike you, because they test everything." "I'm not worried," Harper said. "That's what everyone says on day one." Harper returned a small smile. "Then I'll try to make it to day two." Ethan nodded, and for a moment it felt like they were sharing a private joke. Then a voice, small and sharp, cut through the hallway outside. "Dad, you said 12 minutes. It has been 14. Ethan's entire body shifted at the sound. His shoulders softened. His eyes turned toward the hall with the kind of protective focus Harper had seen in hospitals and airports, the look of someone constantly scanning for a child. A girl stood just beyond the threshold. 9 years old, maybe. Dark hair like Ethan's, cut blunt at the shoulders. A hoodie with a planet printed across the chest. Her gaze moved from Ethan to Harper with a directness that made most adults look away first. Ethan cleared his throat. "Ava, this is Harper. She's our new HR director." Ava stepped closer, her sneakers quiet on the carpet. She looked at Harper's face, then her hair. Then the badge clipped to her blazer as if reading the shape of her life from the plastic. "You have hair like sunrise," Ava said. Harper felt the unexpected sting of being seen. She crouched so her eyes were level with Ava's. That might be the best compliment I've gotten all week. Ava did not smile, but her eyes brightened with interest. Sunrise is not a compliment. It is a description. Compliments are subjective. Harper nodded serious, as if they were discussing contract terms. "Then I'm grateful for the description." Ava's gaze dropped to Harper's hands. "Your nails are short. You type a lot." "I do," Harper said. "And you notice details." Ava tilted her head. "Details are the point. People miss the point because they look at the wrong thing." Harper glanced up at Ethan. He watched their exchange with an expression that held caution, pride, and something else beneath it that looked like worry. Ethan lowered his voice. "We have an appointment, Ava." Ava turned to him. "Ice cream," she confirmed, as if reminding him that promises were not flexible. Ethan's mouth softened again. "Ice cream, you're right." Ava looked back at Harper. "Do you like space?" Harper blinked. "Yes." "What part?" "The part where it's quiet," Harper said after a moment. "And everything has a pattern even when you cannot see it right away." Ava studied her like she had just discovered a new element. "That is an acceptable answer." Ethan exhaled a sound that was almost a laugh and almost relief. "Harper, I should let you settle in. We have to go." Harper stood smoothing her blazer. "Of course." Ava lingered for half a second longer. "Your office is too empty," she said, then turned and walked away as if she had delivered a necessary report. Ethan followed, but before he did, he looked back at Harper. His eyes held an apology he did not say out loud and a question he did not know how to ask. "Welcome to Denver," he said quietly. "Welcome to my office," Harper replied. He left with Ava, his hand resting gently at the top of her shoulder, guiding her without steering too hard. Harper watched them disappear toward the elevators. She had met plenty of powerful men in conference rooms, men who moved people like pieces. Ethan moved like someone who had learned to measure every step because a small person was counting. A minute later, Harper forced herself back to work. She opened her laptop, drafted an announcement email, and started mapping the first month. Yet her mind kept drifting to Ava's blunt assessment and to Ethan's laughter, brief and real. Near the end of the afternoon, Harper stepped into the executive conference room to introduce herself to leadership. Grant Whitmore was there, polished and bright, with a smile that reached the room but never quite reached his eyes. He shook her hand and held it just a second too long. "We've heard impressive things," Grant said. "This company runs on trust. I'm sure you'll help keep it that way." Harper met his smile with a calm one of her own. Trust improves when people stop weaponizing silence. Grant's eyes narrowed for a fraction of a heartbeat, then widened again into friendliness. "I like you already." Across the table, Ethan's gaze flicked to Harper, then away, as if he did not want to be caught noticing. When the meeting ended, Harper returned to her office with a stack of notes and a strange awareness that the job she had taken for structure had just revealed its first fracture. On her desk sat a small bowl of wrapped candy, a simple welcome gift from facilities, and tucked beside it was a sticky note in neat, decisive handwriting. "Ava said your office is too empty." She's probably right. No signature. Harper did not need one. She pressed the note under her keyboard, felt a smile touch her mouth, and then she opened her calendar and marked her first check-in with the CEO. Harper kept Ava's note where she could see it, not because she needed instruction on decorating, but because it reminded her that someone in this building said what she meant. No padding, no politics, just the point. The first weeks moved like a fast river. Harper built a confidential reporting channel with a third-party hotline, rewrote the manager training into something practical, and met with every department head one by one. She listened more than she spoke. She watched who interrupted, who stayed quiet, who used jokes as cover. Ethan did not hover, but he did appear in her doorway at odd moments, as if drawn by a magnet he refused to name. One Tuesday morning, he stepped in holding 2 coffees, both in plain cups without a logo. "I asked the barista what an HR director drinks," he said. Harper eyed the cups, and the barista knew. Ethan's mouth curved. The barista guessed. "One is black, one has oat milk. I do not know which makes you more intimidating." Harper took the black one, then took a small sip to prove a point. "This is acceptable." Ethan leaned on the doorframe, careful not to fully enter, like he respected the line even while testing it. "How bad is it?" "How bad is what?" He nodded toward her stack of notes. The culture. The complaints. The parts nobody writes down. Harper swiveled her monitor so he could not read her screen. You want the honest answer, or the version people tell a CEO? I did not bring coffee for the polite version. Harper studied him for a beat. He looked steady, but the skin beneath his eyes hinted at nights cut short. Your people work hard, they care. They also believe the fastest voice wins. Some managers confuse urgency with leadership. It can be fixed, but it will take consistency. Ethan let out a slow breath. Grant keeps saying we just need to hit our next quarter and morale will improve. Morale does not follow a spreadsheet, Harper said. It follows behavior. Ethan's gaze sharpened with something like relief. Then tell me what behavior you need from me. Harper did not soften it for him. Show up when it is inconvenient. Back your managers publicly when they do the right thing and correct them privately when they do the wrong thing. Make it clear that respect is not negotiable even for top performers. Ethan nodded once as if he was signing something invisible. Okay. He started to leave, then paused. Ava asked if you have a favorite planet. Harper blinked. The question landed in her office like a small bright object. Jupiter. Ethan's eyebrows rose. Why? Because it protects the inner planets, Harper said. It takes hits. It pulls in trouble. Ethan's expression changed, quick and quiet. I will tell her. After he left, Harper stared at the empty doorway for a moment longer than necessary. Then she pulled her attention back to the work. She refused to let herself treat a man like Ethan Cole as anything other than her boss. The problem was that the building itself kept proving he was also someone else. Ava did not appear every day, but when she did, she brought her own weather. On Thursday, Harper was in the break area refilling her water bottle when Ava walked in with a notebook pressed to her chest. Ethan followed 2 steps behind, phone in hand, already half-trapped by a call. Ava marched straight to Harper, ignoring the sink, the counters, the snacks. I need your opinion. Harper lowered the bottle. About what? Ava flipped the notebook open to a page of neat writing and careful drawings. Constellations. Dots connected with thin lines. A list of dates. I am tracking. When Dad smiles, Ava said. Ethan's phone froze halfway to his ear. Ava. Ava did not look at him. It is data. Data is useful. Harper glanced from Ava to Ethan. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. How many so far? Harper asked Ava, taking the notebook seriously. Ava tapped the page, 7 in 14 days. Harper nodded like an analyst. That is a start. Ethan's lips parted, then closed. Harper, she is not supposed to be doing that. Ava's eyes narrowed. I am allowed to observe. You said I should observe people when I do not understand them. Ethan rubbed his forehead. I meant at school, not me. Ava finally looked up at him. You are the most confusing. Harper pressed her lips together to stop a laugh and failed. A small sound escaped. Ethan's eyes flicked to her, surprised, and then his face eased as if her laughter had given him permission to breathe. Ava watched Harper's reaction carefully. You laughed. That counts. Do you want me to track your smiles too? Harper held up both hands. No, I am not ready for that level of accountability. Ava considered the answer, then nodded, as if it met her standards. Okay. Ethan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen and looked torn. Harper tipped her head toward the hallway. Take your call. I can keep her busy. Ethan hesitated, then lowered his voice. Are you sure? Harper met his eyes. Go. Ethan stepped away, speaking into the phone in a calm tone that barely covered his tension. Ava stayed with Harper, her attention snapping to a display of snacks on the counter. They changed the granola bars, Ava announced. Harper looked. Is that bad? It is different, Ava said, and the word carried weight. Harper crouched slightly so her voice stayed quiet. Different can feel bad. Do you want to tell me what is wrong about it? Ava's brow pinched. The wrapper is louder. The old wrapper was quiet. Harper nodded slowly, understanding. That makes sense. Loud wrappers are annoying. Ava's shoulders lowered by a fraction, yes. Harper reached into a cabinet and pulled out a box of tea bags, then offered one to Ava like it was a peace treaty. Pick a flavor. Then we will go to my office and I will show you a picture of Jupiter. Ava's eyes lit up. Jupiter has storms. So do I, Harper said, and Ava stared at her with solemn approval. In Harper's office, Ava sat in the visitor chair with her feet tucked up. Harper pulled a NASA image on her screen and let Ava talk. She spoke in clear sentences, fast and precise, describing cloud bands and moon names like she was reciting a map that made sense. Ethan returned mid-explanation. He stopped in the doorway, watching his daughter and Harper as if he had walked in on something fragile. Ava did not notice him at first. Europa might have an ocean. Harper nodded. That is what they think. Ava finally turned. Dad, Harper likes Jupiter. She understands protection. Ethan's gaze caught on Harper at the word protection. His throat moved as he swallowed. Good. Ava hopped down from the chair. We have to go. I promised myself we would leave at 5:30. Ethan glanced at his watch. It is 5:32. Ava's face tightened. Ethan winced, then held up his hands. My fault. I will fix it. Ava stared at him for a long moment, then looked at Harper. If you come to our house on Friday, we can do science. Dad promised. He forgets. I remind him. Ethan's eyes widened. Ava. Harper blinked, surprised by the invitation, and the way Ethan looked both hopeful and worried at the same time. Science Friday, Harper repeated. Ava nodded satisfied. We will watch a space documentary. We will eat pizza, no pineapple. Harper glanced at Ethan. He looked ready to apologize for his daughter's bluntness, but Harper shook her head slightly, stopping him. I can do Friday, Harper said. Ethan's breath eased out like he had been holding it. You do not have to, he began. I want to, Harper said, and she meant it. Friday night, Ethan's building rose above downtown like a stack of clean lines. Harper arrived with a paper bag from a bookstore, her fingers tightening on the handles as the elevator climbed. She told herself it was just kindness, a simple gift for a child who liked facts and patterns. That was all. Ethan opened the door in a soft sweater and dark jeans, hair damp as if he had just washed it. The penthouse was bright but warm, filled with quiet signs of a child. Shoes lined neatly by the entry, a star chart framed on the wall, a bowl of smooth stones on the coffee table. Ava appeared from the hallway like she had been waiting at attention. You came. Harper held out the bag. I brought something. Ava took it with care, pulling out the book as if unwrapping a serious object. Women astronauts, women engineers, women who built machines that left Earth. Ava's eyes widened. These are real. They are very real, Harper said. Ava flipped pages rapidly, then looked up. Thank you. Dad, look, this one flew a shuttle. Ethan's gaze moved from the book to Harper, and something quiet settled in his face like gratitude that did not know where to go. You remembered what she likes. Harper shrugged, aiming for casual and missing by a mile. It is hard to forget someone who can name Jupiter's moons on demand. Ava corrected immediately. Not all of them. There are many. Ethan's mouth twitched, then he stepped aside. Come in. Pizza is in the oven. They ate at the kitchen island. Ava narrated the documentary like a commentator pausing to explain why a planet's tilt mattered, or why a comet's tail looked bright. Ethan listened with focused attention, not the distracted kind adults sometimes give children. When Ava corrected him, he did not get defensive. He adjusted like learning was normal. Harper watched that, and her chest tightened again in the same place it had tightened the first time. Later, Ava announced that it was bedtime with the seriousness of a judge. Ethan walked her down the hall, voice low, steps steady. Harper heard him stop at the bedroom door. I will be right back, he said. Ava's reply came crisp. Do not take too long. People leave when they take too long. There was a pause, just long enough to feel. Then Ethan's voice softer. I am not leaving. Ava said nothing else. The door clicked shut. Ethan returned to the living room with a controlled calm that did not hide the weight in his eyes. He picked up 2 glasses from the kitchen and poured sparkling water, then handed one to Harper as if giving her something to hold. "She likes you," he said. Harper took a sip, buying time. "She likes information." "I brought information." Ethan's gaze stayed on her. "She likes you," he repeated firmer. Harper set the glass down on the counter. The city lights outside the windows looked close enough to touch. "She is easy to respect," Harper said. "She is honest." Ethan leaned on the back of the sofa, arms crossed loosely. "Honest can be hard." "It can," Harper agreed. Her voice lowered. "She said something earlier that stuck with me." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. "About people leaving?" Harper nodded. Ethan looked down for a moment, then back up. "Her mother left when Ava was 2. She said she could not do it. She said she did not sign up for a child who needed more." Harper felt anger flare hot and immediate. She kept her face steady so she did not make Ethan carry her reaction too. "That is her loss," she said. Ethan studied her as if he expected a polite lie. When he did not find it, his shoulders dropped a fraction. "Most people treat it like a problem I should solve quietly." Harper took a step closer, not reaching for him, not touching, just closing the space enough to make her words land. "It is not a problem, it is a person. She is your person." Ethan's eyes held hers. The air between them thickened with things neither had said. Harper's pulse flickered in her throat. Ethan's mouth parted as if he might answer with something unguarded. From down the hall, Ava's voice cut through the quiet, firm and sleepy. "Dad, you said you were not leaving." Ethan flinched like the words had touched a bruise. He turned toward the hallway immediately. "I am coming," he called back. He looked at Harper one more time before he went, and the expression on his face was not CEO calm. It was the look of a man balancing on a thin line, trying not to drop anything that mattered. Harper stood alone for a moment in the wide, warm room, surrounded by small signs of Ava's world, feeling the shape of something forming that did not fit neatly inside any policy she had ever written. Harper left Ethan's penthouse a little after 10, riding the elevator down with the book bag empty and her hands still warm from the glass she had held too long. The lobby was quiet, the security desk lit by a single lamp. Outside, the night air felt sharp and clean, like it was trying to erase whatever had just happened upstairs. She drove home with the radio off. At a stoplight, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Ava. The documentary said Jupiter has 69 moons. That is a lot. Good night. Harper stared at the screen until the light turned green. She typed back carefully. Harper. Good night, Ava. Thank you for teaching me. She did not text Ethan. She did not want to give her mind another excuse to replay his face when Ava said people leave when they take too long. By Monday morning, Harper had folded the night away into a neat mental file labeled not appropriate and tried to return to the clean lines of her job. She arrived early, walked the floor, checked in with the hotline vendor, and met with legal about an updated reporting process. She was midway through drafting a manager accountability memo when her assistant Lila leaned into her office. Grant wants to see you, Lila said. Harper did not look up. About what? Lila's mouth tightened. He did not say. He asked if you were free at 11. Then he asked if Ethan was in. Harper's fingers paused above her keyboard. Is Ethan in? Not yet. Harper nodded once. Put it on the calendar. When 11 came, Harper walked into Grant Whitmore's office with her shoulders relaxed and her expression neutral. Grant's space was designed to signal power without effort. Dark wood, minimal personal items, a single framed photo of a sailboat in bright ocean light. Grant stood to greet her, smile, polished and easy. Harper, please, sit. Harper took the chair across from him. Grant poured water from a glass carafe as if they were old friends. How are you settling in? Busy, Harper said, which is a good sign. Busy people make fewer mistakes, Grant replied, then slid a folder across the desk. I wanted your input. Harper opened it. Investor notes. Board concerns. A section labeled reputational risk. Grant watched her read, his face calm. We are entering a sensitive season, he said. Boston negotiations are advancing. The board wants to project stability, predictability. Harper looked up. This seems more like legal strategy than HR. It overlaps, Grant said gently. Everything overlaps when you are building a company that investors trust. Harper flipped a page. This line about personal entanglements, what is that? Grant's smile stayed in place, but his eyes narrowed slightly as if measuring how much she already knew. Nothing specific, just a reminder that leadership optics matter. People talk, people speculate. People always do, Harper said. Grant leaned back. Exactly, and as you know, perception can become reality in the wrong hands. Harper held his gaze. Are you asking me to police rumors? I am asking you to help us avoid distractions, Grant said. You are good at boundaries. That is why we hired you. Harper closed the folder. If there is a policy issue, I can address it. If there is a behavior issue, I can address it. If there is gossip, I can remind managers not to engage. But I cannot manage people's imaginations. Grant chuckled softly, as if she had said something charming, spoken like a true professional. Harper stood. If that is all, I have a training session to finalize. Grant stood as well. Of course, and Harper. Yeah, Grant's smile did not change. You should know the board notices everything. That is not a warning, it is information. Harper walked out with her posture steady, but the hallway suddenly felt longer than it had that morning. At noon, she crossed the courtyard between buildings to grab a salad. She had barely stepped outside when she saw Ethan at a standing table near the fountain phone pressed to his ear. He looked up when he spotted her. His expression brightened for half a second, then corrected itself into business. Harper lifted her hand in a small greeting. Ethan nodded back, eyes lingering on her as if he wanted to say something. Then Grant appeared at Ethan's shoulder, smiling, saying something Harper could not hear. Ethan's jaw tightened. His gaze slid away from Harper. Harper turned toward the cafe line, but she could feel a tension like heat on her back. She glanced over her shoulder and caught two mid-level managers watching her, eyes darting away too quickly. By Tuesday, the shift had become a texture in the air. Meetings that used to include Harper now arrived without her name on the invite list. Her request for a department head to attend an accountability workshop was met with a delayed reply and a polite excuse. People still smiled, but their smiles had changed. Shorter, more cautious. In the afternoon, Harper stepped into the executive conference room for a scheduled culture review. The room was full. Ethan sat at the head of the table. Grant sat 2 seats down, tablet open, fingers tapping. A board liaison Harper had met once, Diane Keller, sat near the screen, posture rigid. Harper took her seat and opened her binder. Diane glanced at Grant, then at Ethan. Before we start, Diane said, I would like to address an item of concern. Ethan's eyes flicked toward Harper, then back to Diane. Go ahead. Diane folded her hands. We have received feedback that internal boundaries are becoming blurred. That creates risk. Harper felt the room tilt slightly, as if the chair beneath her had shifted. She kept her face composed. Can you be specific? Diane's eyes landed on Harper and stayed there. It has been noted that you have had frequent informal access to the CEO. That is unusual for HR. Harper's pulse jumped. She glanced at Ethan. His expression was controlled, but his hands were tight around his pen. Grant spoke before Ethan could. No one is accusing anyone of misconduct, Grant said smoothly. We are simply being proactive. Investors are cautious. Boston is a major step. Harper set her pen down carefully. My access to the CEO is related to my job. I am responsible for risk mitigation manager training and policy enforcement. That requires direct communication. Diane's mouth tightened. The concern is not that you speak. It is the optics. Harper looked around the table. A few executives stared at their laptops. One avoided her eyes completely. She felt a flare of anger, sharp and clean. She kept her voice even. Optics improve when leaders behave transparently. If the board wants to formalize communication channels, I will comply. But I will not accept vague insinuations. If there is a complaint, bring it forward properly. Grant's tablet clicked as he locked the screen. Well said, he murmured as if he had been on her side the whole time. Ethan finally spoke. Harper is doing her job, he said, voice firm. She has improved reporting structures and training engagement in 3 weeks. That is not a distraction, that is progress. Harper felt a small unwanted warmth at his defense. It did not last. Diane nodded once. We appreciate your support, Ethan. We are not questioning her competence, we are discussing public perception. Harper knew then that the meeting was not about her work. It was about control. Afterward, she walked back to her office and found a new email in her inbox flagged urgent. The subject line read, Confidential Complaint Submission. Harper opened it and scanned the text. Anonymous, no names, lots of vague phrases, inappropriate closeness, favoritism, conflict of interest. The words were written with enough legal caution to sound credible and enough emptiness to be impossible to disprove. Lila stepped into the doorway, face pale. Did you see it? Yes, Harper said. Lila lowered her voice. People are talking in the kitchen. They said you got special access because you know. Harper kept her tone steady. Who said it? Lila shook her head, eyes glistening. It does not matter who. It is spreading. Harper's chest felt tight, but her mind went cold and efficient. Send a message to department heads. Remind them of the anti-retaliation policy. Schedule a manager briefing on rumor control and professionalism. Also, pull my meeting history with Ethan. I want a record of every conversation topic. Lila nodded quickly and disappeared. Harper sat down and forced herself to breathe. She looked at the sticky note under her keyboard, the one that had made her smile days ago. Today, it looked like a tiny reckless thing. At 4:30, Harper headed to the elevator to attend a planned meeting with finance and legal. The doors opened, and 2 employees inside went quiet mid-sentence. One glanced at Harper, then at the floor. Harper stepped in anyway. The elevator dropped in silence. When she reached the meeting room, the door was closed. She checked her calendar. The meeting was still scheduled. She tried the handle. Locked. Her phone buzzed with an email update. Meeting canceled. Updated attendee list attached. Harper opened the attachment. Her name was not there. Her fingers tightened around her phone. She stared at the closed door, then turned away. On her way back, she caught sight of Ethan through a glass wall standing in his office with Grant. Ethan's shoulders were tense. Grant's hands moved in small, calm gestures like he was soothing a nervous animal. Harper's badge beeped at a security gate that had never beeped at her before. The light flashed red. The security guard glanced over. Miss Lane, can you try again? Harper swallowed, forced a smile, and tapped the badge a second time. Red again. The guard frowned and picked up his radio. Harper stood still, eyes on the gate, while behind the glass Ethan turned his head and looked out into the hall as if he had felt something shift. Their eyes met through layers of distance and polished surfaces. Ethan's face changed a flicker of alarm. Grant followed his gaze and smiled, mild and satisfied, like the world was settling into the shape he preferred. Ethan pushed through the glass door before the security guard could finish speaking into his radio. Hold on, Ethan said, voice low but edged. He came to Harper's side, eyes on the flashing red light as if it had insulted her. What happened? Harper kept her face smooth. It did not like my badge. The guard cleared his throat. Miss Lane's access is not clearing the executive gate, sir. It might be an update issue. Ethan held out his hand. Give me the badge. Harper hesitated, then unclipped it and placed it in his palm. His fingers closed around it with care, like it was something breakable. He looked at the number, then looked at the guard. "Pull up her access profile," Ethan said, "right now." The guard nodded quickly and turned to his terminal. Harper stood still, heat rising in her cheeks. It was not fear. It was the sharp sting of being made a spectacle for a hallway that already felt like it was measuring her. Ethan leaned closer, voice softened so only she could hear. "This is not you. Do you understand?" Harper kept her eyes on the gate. "I understand the timing." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I will fix it." On the other side of the glass wall, Grant remained in Ethan's office, hands resting lightly on the back of a chair. He watched like a man observing a demonstration he had requested. When Ethan glanced his way, Grant lifted his brows in a mild question, then smiled as if he were offering sympathy. The guard's screen beeped. "It looks like her executive floor access was reduced this afternoon," he said carefully. "It is showing standard staff clearance." Harper's throat went tight. "Reduced by who?" The guard looked at Ethan, then down again. "It shows an administrator action through board liaison credentials." Ethan did not move for a beat. Then he said calm but hard, "Restore it." "I might need a ticket from IT," the guard started. "Restore it," Ethan repeated, and the second time his voice carried the authority that made whole rooms fall silent. The guard's fingers flew. The terminal beeped again. "Try now, Ms. Lane." Harper tapped her badge. The light turned green. The gate opened. She stepped through with her spine straight, refusing to let herself look relieved. Ethan walked beside her, as if escorting her was the most normal thing in the world. "Thank you," Harper said, without looking at him. Ethan's eyes stayed forward. "I am not doing you a favor. You are supposed to have access to do your job." They reached the elevator bank. The hallway was quiet, but Harper could feel eyes in doorways, faces angled just enough to pretend they were not watching. She could feel the story growing legs. Ethan pressed the call button and spoke without turning his head. "Come to the small conference room in 10 minutes. Harper finally looked up at him. "That sounds like a meeting." "It is," Ethan said. The elevator arrived. Ethan did not step in. He waited until Harper entered, then he added quieter, "I am sorry." The doors slid shut before Harper could answer. 10 minutes later, Harper walked into the small conference room with a folder under her arm and her expression arranged into calm professionalism. The room was empty, except for Ethan standing by the window with his hands on the back of a chair. The city stretched beyond him, sun dropping low enough to turn the glass buildings into copper. Ethan did not sit, neither did Harper. He started first. That access change should not have happened. Harper placed her folder on the table. It happened. Ethan's mouth tightened. Diane Keller made the request. Grant supported it. They did it under the excuse of optics. "Optics," Harper repeated, letting the word sharpen in the air. "They are treating me like a risk." Ethan looked at her, and for a moment the mask cracked. "They are using you as leverage." Harper crossed her arms. "Against who?" Ethan's silence answered before his words did. Harper's stomach cooled. "Against you." Ethan took a breath. "Harper, I need you to hear me. The board is nervous. Boston is sensitive. Investors are watching everything I do. They are looking for any reason to say I am not focused." Harper's voice stayed steady, but her chest hurt. "So your solution is to lock me out of meetings and let anonymous complaints sit in my inbox like a threat?" "No," Ethan said quickly. "That is not my solution." Harper tilted her head. "Then what is it?" Ethan hesitated as if the sentence tasted bad. "Distance." Harper stared at him. "Say that again." Ethan's eyes held hers. "We need to be careful. We need to avoid giving them anything they can twist." Harper's laugh came out short and humorless. "Anything they can twist? You mean my existence in a hallway? My job title? The fact that I do not smile and giggle when powerful men are uncomfortable?" Ethan's shoulders rose with frustration. "That is not what I mean." "It is what it becomes," Harper said. Her hands curled against her arms, nails pressing into fabric. "Do you know what it felt like to stand at that gate while people watched, like I had done something wrong when I had not done anything at all?" Ethan's jaw flexed. I know. Harper's eyes narrowed. Do you? Ethan's gaze dropped for a second, then lifted again. I know because I have watched them do versions of this to other people. I have watched them win. Harper's voice lowered. And you think the right move is to let them. Ethan stepped closer to the table. I think the right move is to protect you. Harper held her ground. Protection is not the same as exile. Ethan's hands gripped the chair back. You do not understand what they can do. Harper's chin lifted. Then tell me. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. They can push for an ethics review. They can call for outside counsel. They can question your credibility. They can question mine. They can pull Ava's life into it if they want to be cruel. At the mention of Ava, Harper's anger shifted into something hotter and more dangerous. Leave her out of this. I am trying to, Ethan said, voice rough. That is the point. Harper's pulse beat hard against her throat. You think I am the threat to her? Ethan's eyes widened. No, Harper, no. Then, why does it feel like you are choosing their comfort over my dignity? Ethan looked like he had taken a hit. He inhaled slowly. Because I'm trying to keep the ground steady under her. Harper's expression tightened. And Boston is part of that plan. Ethan went still. Harper's stomach dropped further. So it is real. Ethan looked away toward the window. It is a possibility. Harper took a step closer, forcing him to face her. You said Boston like it was a file on your desk. You did not say it like it could take you away. Ethan's voice was careful. Nothing is signed. Harper's eyes flicked toward his hands, remembering the pen hovering over the Boston agreement in Part 1, remembering his calm voice telling her to come in. She pushed that image down. She could not let it own her in this room. When were you going to tell me? Harper asked. Ethan's gaze returned to her. There was nothing to tell yet. Harper's voice sharpened. That is not true. You do not carry a possibility like that without it living in you. You do not plan a move like that without it shaping your choices. Ethan's shoulders sagged slightly, and Harper saw the fatigue beneath the CEO composure. It has been discussed for a long time. Before you came here. Harper nodded slowly. So I arrived in a story that was already written. Ethan flinched. That is not what I'm saying. It is what it feels like, Harper said. You ask me to distance myself for optics, and you keep Boston quiet like it is none of my business. But you also invite me into your home. You let Ava hand me her world like it is safe. You stand in my doorway with coffee, like you are trying to remember what it feels like to want something that is not a quarterly target. Ethan's eyes held hers rawer now. I did not mean for it to get complicated. Harper's lips pressed together. It does not matter what you meant. Silence filled the room again, not empty this time, but heavy with things they both understood and could not neatly name. Ethan moved around the chair closer, slow, as if he was giving her time to step back. Harper did not. She watched him, aware of the distance shrinking and the air changing. His voice dropped. You've been good for Ava. Harper's breath caught. She is not a project. I know, Ethan said quickly. I mean, you make her feel seen. That is rare. Harper's throat tightened. She makes it easy. Ethan's eyes flickered, and Harper saw it the way he teetered between wanting and fear. He raised his hand, slightly stopped, then let it fall as if touch was a line he did not trust himself to cross. Systems can change. Harper said the words, leaving her before she could stop them. Ethan's gaze snapped to hers. Can they? Harper swallowed. They have to. Otherwise, they are just cages that look tidy from the outside. Ethan took one more step. Harper could see the faint crease between his brows, the strain of holding too much alone. His hand lifted, not reaching for her, but reaching toward the space near her hair, like he wanted to confirm she was real. The conference room phone stayed silent. The building hummed. The city outside glowed. Then Ethan's cell phone rang. The sound shattered the moment like glass. Ethan froze, and Harper saw the change in his face before he even looked at the screen. Concern surged up, immediate and fierce. He answered on the first ring, Nora. Harper heard only Ethan's side, but it was enough. His shoulders tightened. His eyes closed briefly. Okay, Ethan said, voice gentle now. I am coming. Stay with her. Tell her I am on my way. He ended the call and looked at Harper. Apology and urgency tangled together. Ava woke up. Nightmare. Harper's chest softened despite everything. Go. Ethan did not move yet. He stood there as if leaving the room would cost him something he could not afford to lose. Harper, he said. She lifted her chin. She needs you. Ethan's jaw worked once. Then he nodded, sharp and decisive, like he could handle decisions if they were about his daughter. He strode to the door, stopped with his hand on the handle, and looked back. His eyes were darker now, stripped of polish. I meant it, he said quietly, about protecting you. Harper held his gaze. Then, do not let them make me smaller to keep you comfortable. Ethan's throat moved as he swallowed. He opened the door and left footsteps fading down the hall. Harper stood alone in the conference room, staring at the empty doorway, feeling the aftershock of not quite of words that landed like promises and then slipped away. She picked up her folder, smoothed the edges that did not need smoothing, and walked back to her office with her posture steady. In the hallway outside, a group of employees stepped aside too quickly, eyes sliding away. Harper kept walking anyway. Her badge beeped green at every gate now, but the building still felt like it had narrowed around her. When she reached her desk, her inbox refreshed. A new calendar invite had been added for the next morning. Executive discussion. Boston strategy. Attendance limited. Harper's name was not on it. She stared at the screen, then closed her laptop with a quiet click. Harper opened her laptop again the next morning because work did not stop for hurt feelings. She read every email. She documented every change in access. She rebuilt meeting flows that kept breaking. She trained managers who smiled too hard and nodded too fast, then went right back to doing things the old way. Ethan did not come to her doorway with coffee anymore. When he did appear, it was in motion on the way to a call, eyes guarded, shoulders tight. He still nodded when he saw her. He still held a door when their paths crossed. It was the kind of courtesy that could look like kindness from far away and like distance up close. Grant, meanwhile, became more visible. He was everywhere Harper looked, slipping into conversations like a ribbon tied around a package that did not belong to him. He stood with department heads smiling as he asked questions that sounded harmless and landed like pressure. He sat in on meetings that had never needed him before. He said the word Boston the way some people said the word destiny. On Wednesday, Diane Keller sent Harper an email with the subject line Gala Protocol. The Denver Museum of Nature and Science was hosting a donor event that weekend to celebrate a new education wing. Cole and Whitmore Innovations was a lead sponsor. Ethan would speak. The board would attend. Investors would attend. Local press would attend. Harper's name was listed under executive presence. Harper stared at the words executive presence and felt her jaw tighten. Her phone buzzed a minute later. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. She answered on the second ring. Hello, Harper, Ethan said. His voice sounded tired. You got the Gala email? Yes. A pause. You have to come. Harper kept her tone neutral. I am aware of my duties. That is not why I called, Ethan said. Harper waited. I know things have been... He stopped, then started again. I know the board has made it harder for you to do your job. I am handling it. Harper let out a quiet breath. Handling it how? Ethan's voice tightened. I cannot do this on the phone. I can, Harper said. I can do it very easily on the phone. Silence on the line. Ethan spoke softer. Please do not make this worse. Harper's eyes narrowed. Worse for who? Another pause, longer this time. When Ethan spoke again, his voice was careful. For you. Harper's throat tightened. She looked out her office window at the flat winter sky. I will be at the gala, she said. Thank you, Ethan replied, and the gratitude sounded too personal for a professional conversation. Harper ended the call and sat very still, hands resting on her desk as if she were teaching herself not to shake. Saturday evening came with a clean cold that made the streetlights look sharper. Harper stood in her apartment bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror with a detached focus. The dress was a deep blue, simple lines, modest enough for donors, elegant enough for cameras. She had told herself she picked it because it photographed well under museum lighting. She did not tell herself that she remembered Ethan once glancing at a display of gemstones in Ava's science book and saying almost to himself that blue looked like calm. Harper pinned her hair back, checked her makeup once, then stepped into heels and walked out. The museum was lit like a stage. Spotlights washed the stone facade in gold. Valets moved with quick efficiency. Guests in dark suits and glittering gowns flowed up the steps in steady waves. Inside, the air smelled like champagne and polished marble. Harper followed the sound of a string quartet into the main hall where a towering dinosaur skeleton rose above the crowd like a silent witness. Beneath it, donors laughed, investors clasped hands, and board members traded smiles that never reached their eyes. Harper felt her badge at her waist hidden beneath the fabric. She missed the simple authority of a visible credential. Tonight, she had to be competent without it. She greeted 2 department heads, accepted a flute of sparkling water, and made her way toward the sponsor wall where cameras flashed. Grant stood there, already chatting with a pair of investors Harper recognized from last quarter's round. He turned the moment he saw her, his smile arriving first. "Harper," Grant said, "you look radiant." Harper held his gaze. "Good evening, Grant." He stepped closer, lowering his voice as if they were sharing a secret. "You clean up nicely." Harper's mouth tightened. "Is that supposed to sound like a compliment?" Grant's smile did not move. "It sounds like an observation." Harper glanced past him. Ethan stood near the planetarium entrance speaking with a group of donors. His suit was dark, his hair neatly styled, his expression composed. He looked like the man who could sell confidence with a handshake. Then his eyes lifted. Harper felt it like a shift in air pressure. His gaze landed on her, stayed there for a beat too long, then flicked away as if he had caught himself doing something dangerous. Grant followed her line of sight and chuckled softly. "He is watching you." Harper took a slow sip of water. "He is watching the room. That is his job." Grant's voice stayed low. "Of course. The board appreciates focus." Harper's fingers tightened on the glass. "The board appreciates control." Grant's smile sharpened slightly. Those words often mean the same thing. A museum staff member passed with a tray of canapes. Harper took one without tasting it, mostly to have something to do with her hands. Grant leaned in a fraction. "People are still talking, Harper." Harper did not blink. "Then they should be reminded of professionalism." "I like your faith in policy," Grant said. "I truly do. But policy does not quiet investors. Optics do." Harper's gaze stayed steady. "Are you here as a sponsor or as a threat?" Grant's eyes remained pleasant. "Do you always make things so dramatic?" Harper's voice lowered. "Only when someone tries to make me smaller." Grant's smile tightened. "I'm trying to keep the company safe." "The company," Harper repeated. Grant's eyes glittered. "Ethan is brilliant, no one doubts that, but brilliance is not enough when a board starts to wonder whether their founder is drifting." Harper felt heat rise in her chest. Drifting because he speaks to the HR director about HR issues. Grant lifted one shoulder. Drifting because he has been seen having private conversations. Lunches that run long. A few smiles that look like something else. Harper's lips pressed together. "You mean a few moments?" Grant's gaze sharpened as if he enjoyed hearing the phrase. "Moments can be expensive." Harper turned her head slightly, scanning for Ethan. He had moved closer to the donor group, his posture still composed, but his jaw looked tight. Grant stepped closer again, his voice smooth as glass. "Did you know Boston is not a short assignment?" Harper's stomach dropped. She kept her face calm. "I know it is a topic the board enjoys." Grant's smile widened just a touch. "It is a permanent chair. 5 years minimum." Ethan and Ava will relocate next month. The words landed with a physical force like someone had pressed a cold hand against Harper's ribs. Her mind tried to reject them. Next month. 5 years. Ava leaving Denver, Ethan leaving Denver, the office door, the pen hovering, the Boston agreement. Harper kept her posture straight. She did not let her eyes widen. "That is his business," she said. Grant tilted his head. "Is it?" Harper's voice stayed even. "Yes." Grant's smile turned thin. "I assumed you believed you might change his mind." Harper held his gaze. "You assumed wrong." Grant's eyes narrowed slightly. A man like Ethan does not change course for an infatuation. Harper's fingers curled around her glass until the rim pressed into her palm. She did not look away. "You should be careful," she said softly. "You are speaking about your partner as if he is a product you own." Grant's smile did not reach his eyes. "I am speaking about the reality of leadership." Before Harper could answer, a shadow fell across them. Ethan stood beside Harper close enough that she could feel warmth from his body. His expression was calm, but something stormy sat behind his eyes. "Grant," Ethan said, voice measured. "The McAllister group was asking for you." Grant did not move. "Were they?" Ethan's jaw flexed once. "Yes." Grant glanced at Harper with a polite smile. "I was only keeping Harper company." Ethan's gaze did not leave Grant. "You were discussing Boston." Grant's eyes widened in mock innocence. It came up. "People are curious." Ethan's voice stayed low. "My personal business is not party conversation." Grant's smile held. Everything is party conversation when investors are present. Ethan stared at him for a moment longer, then leaned in slightly. "Go. Now." Grant's smile slipped for a fraction of a second. Then it returned, and he stepped away, disappearing into the crowd with easy grace. Ethan remained at Harper's side. The space Grant left behind felt colder. Harper looked at Ethan's hands. One of them was clenched, the knuckles pale. "Is it true?" Harper asked quietly. Ethan's gaze met hers. His eyes were dark, careful. "Harper." "That is not an answer," she said. Ethan's throat moved as he swallowed. "It is complicated." Harper felt her chest tighten. "Are you leaving next month?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "I have not signed anything." Harper's voice stayed steady with effort. "But you plan to." Ethan glanced toward the planetarium doors as if the room itself might offer him cover. "Boston is an opportunity. It is stability for Ava. It has been in motion for a long time." Harper's lips parted, then closed. She could feel the museum around them, the music, the chatter, the lights. It all faded behind a ringing quiet. "I did not know it was permanent," she said. Ethan's gaze flicked to her dress, her hair, her face, and then away again. "I did not want this to become something the board could use against you." Harper let out a short breath. "So you kept it from me." Ethan's voice tightened. There was nothing to tell. Harper's eyes sharpened. There was everything to tell. Ethan's composure cracked just enough for frustration to show. "What do you want me to say? That I am turning down the opportunity of a lifetime because we shared a few moments in a courtyard and a kitchen?" The word struck like a slap. Harper felt her face heat, then go cold. She held his gaze anyway. A few moments, she repeated. Ethan's eyes widened. "That came out wrong." Harper's voice lowered, controlled. "Did it?" Ethan's shoulders tensed. "Harper, you have to understand. Ava needs consistency. She needs a plan. She needs a place where she will not feel like the ground keeps moving." Harper's throat tightened at the ache in his voice. She could hear the fear under it. She could see the man who ran to his daughter's bedroom when she had a nightmare. Then she heard Grant's earlier words again, crisp and cruel. "Next month. 5 years." Harper's mouth turned into a tight line. "And I am not part of that plan," she said. Ethan's eyes flashed. "That is not fair." Harper's voice stayed quiet. "Life is not fair. You taught me that when you asked me to be careful so the board would not hurt me. Ethan looked like he wanted to reach for her, then stopped himself. Harper. She set her glass down on a passing tray without looking. The water sloshed slightly but did not spill. "Congratulations," Harper said the word clean and sharp. "I hope Boston gives you everything you are looking for." Ethan's jaw worked as if he were biting back something urgent. "Harper, wait." Harper stepped back. She did not run. She did not rush. She moved with the quiet precision of someone protecting what little pride she had left. Ethan reached out and caught her wrist. Harper's breath stopped. His fingers were warm, steady, and careful, as if he was afraid to hold too hard. She looked down at his hand, then up at his face. Ethan's eyes were searching hers, panicked now beneath the control. "I did not mean it like that." Harper's voice barely rose above the music. "Then mean it like something else. Right now." Ethan's mouth opened. No words came. Harper gently pulled her wrist free. His hand fell back to his side like it had lost strength. She turned and walked through the museum hall, past the dinosaur bones, past the glittering donors, past the planetarium doors where Ava would have loved the lights. She walked until the noise thinned, and she found a quiet exhibit with a ceiling painted like a night sky. She stood beneath it for a moment, staring up at the stars that were not real, feeling the strange emptiness of a room full of people. Then she lifted her chin, turned, and walked out into the cold Denver night. The cold outside the museum bit through Harper's coat as soon as the doors closed behind her. She walked down the steps with her hands clenched inside her sleeves, breathing shallow, refusing to let the air catch on anything soft. The valet line was crowded with laughter and perfume. Harper kept moving until the sound faded behind a sawn-in glass. In her car, she sat with both hands on the steering wheel and stared at the street ahead. The dashboard clock glowed. She could still feel Ethan's fingers on her wrist, warm and careful, then gone. She could still hear his voice, the one line that had turned everything sharp. A few moments. Harper started the engine and drove home through streets lined with bare trees and snow pushed into gray piles along the curb. She did not cry. Not yet. She watched headlights slide across wet pavement and counted turns like a distraction she could control. At her apartment, she kicked off her heels and stood in the dark living room. The silence felt thick. She opened her phone, hovered over Ethan's name, then closed the screen. Her thumb moved to Ava's thread instead. Ava had not texted since the night of the Jupiter message. Harper stared at that last line for a long time, then set the phone down as if it might burn her. She slept in fragments. By morning, Harper's face looked composed in the mirror, but her eyes felt older. She dressed with the same clean precision as always, pinned her hair back, and walked into the building like a person with nothing to hide. The lobby smelled like coffee and cedar, the same as day one. The difference was that now, when she stepped into an elevator, conversations paused. Not all of them, just enough. The kind of pause that said someone had already decided what the story was, and they were waiting to see if she would confirm it. Harper walked into her office, placed her bag on the chair, and opened her laptop. She answered messages. She reviewed policy drafts. She scheduled a manager training she suspected no one would attend. She made herself do the work because work was a surface she could stand on. At 10:15, Lila appeared in the doorway with a coffee that Harper did not ask for. "You were amazing last night," Lila said softly. Harper looked up. "You were there." Lila nodded. "I saw you leave. I saw Ethan follow you with his eyes like he forgot he was in public." Harper's throat tightened. "Do not read meaning into that." Lila's expression wavered. "Harper, people are being cruel." Harper kept her voice even. "People have always been cruel. They just have more room now." Lila hesitated. "Are you okay?" Harper wanted to laugh. The question was kind, and that made it hurt more. She reached for the coffee and held it like an anchor. "I am functioning," Harper said. Lila nodded, but she did not leave. "Grant asked for you again. He wants you in his office at noon." Harper's fingers tightened around the cup. "Tell him I have a conflict." Lila's eyes widened. "He will not like that." Harper set the coffee down carefully. "I am not here to be liked." At noon, Harper did not go to Grant's office. Instead, she closed her door and opened a document titled Resignation Letter. The cursor blinked on a blank page like a heartbeat. Harper stared at it, then began typing. She kept the language clean. Professional. 2 weeks' notice. Gratitude for the opportunity. A line about ensuring a smooth transition. No emotion. No explanation. Nothing anyone could twist. When she finished, she read it once, then attached it to an email addressed to Diane Keller and copied legal. She paused with her finger over send. Her mind flickered with images of Ethan in his penthouse kitchen sleeves rolled up listening to Ava explain storms on Jupiter. It flickered with Ethan's voice low and urgent saying he wanted to protect her. It flickered with his words at the gala sharp and thoughtless as if he had thrown a knife and only realized after that it could cut. Harper pressed send. The email whooshed away with a sound that felt too small for what it meant. The rest of the afternoon moved with strange clarity. Harper met with legal to hand off ongoing cases. She forwarded training documents. She sent a brief note to department heads thanking them for their time and cooperation. Some replies came quickly polite and generic. Others did not come at all. At 3:40, her phone buzzed with a new message from an unfamiliar number. Summit Ridge Systems offer letter attached. Start date flexible. Welcome. Boulder, a competitor, a smaller company with sharp growth and hungry talent. They had reached out weeks ago impressed by her work history, and Harper had ignored it. Now the email sat on her screen like a door cracked open. Harper opened the attachment and read, Compensation. Title. Authority. A culture role with real support from leadership. The words felt solid and simple. No board liaison. No partner with a smile like a blade. Harper signed the acceptance electronically and sent it back. She leaned back in her chair and let herself breathe once deep and shaking. Not relief, exactly. More like the moment after a storm when you realize the roof is still there, but the house will never feel the same. At 5, Harper shut down her computer and began sorting her desk. She placed files into labeled boxes. She gathered pens. She pulled a framed photo of her parents from the shelf and wrapped it in a scarf. She found a sticky note tucked under her keyboard, the one Ethan had written after Ava said her office was too empty. She stared at it until her eyes blurred, then folded it and slid it into her wallet, not as a keepsake but as evidence that she had not imagined any of it. The following morning, the board met early. Harper did not know what was said in that room. She only knew the energy in the hallway shifted again around 9:30. People moved faster. Voices lowered. Doors closed more often. At 10:12, Ethan appeared. He did not knock. He pushed her office door open, with a controlled force stepped inside and closed it behind him. His face was tight, the kind of tight that came from anger held in a fist. Harper was mid-pack, placing a stack of printed policy drafts into a box. She did not look up right away. "You are quitting," Ethan said. Harper slid the papers into place and pressed down gently, as if flattening the moment. "Yes." Ethan took a step closer. "I heard it in the board meeting. Diane announced it like it was an agenda item." Harper finally looked up. Ethan's eyes were dark, jaw-clenched, hair neat, but his expression did not fit the suit. For the first time since the gala, she saw the man behind the CEO, and it made her chest tighten in a way she did not want. "I sent my letter yesterday," Harper said. 2 weeks' notice. Ethan's hands flexed at his sides. "Where are you going?" Harper lifted another item, a small desk plant, and wrapped the pot in paper. "Summit Ridge Systems." Ethan's face sharpened. "That is our competitor." Harper met his gaze. "Yes." Ethan's voice went lower. "Why?" Harper set the plant into the box. "Because they offered me a position." His eyes narrowed. "And you took it." Harper kept her tone even. "Apparently they value my expertise." Ethan stared at her as if she had struck him. "This is because of me." Harper's mouth tightened. "Not everything is about you, Ethan." Ethan took another step, the space between them shrinking. "It is Harper. The timing makes it obvious." Harper lifted a folder from the desk and slid it into the box. Her hands were steady, but her throat hurt. "The timing makes it necessary." Ethan's voice tightened with frustration. "You are leaving because you are angry." Harper looked up sharply. "I am leaving because I am tired of being treated like a rumor. I am leaving because my access can be reduced with a few clicks and no one blinks. I am leaving because you asked me to distance myself so the board could feel comfortable." Ethan's jaw worked. "I asked that to protect you." Harper's eyes flashed. "You cannot protect me by stepping away. That is not protection. That is abandonment with better language." Ethan froze and Harper saw the word land hard. His throat moved as he swallowed. "That is not fair," Ethan said, voice rough. Harper's breath caught, and she hated that she still cared whether he was hurt. "You said Boston was stability. You said you did not want complications. You reduced whatever this was to a few moments." Ethan's expression cracked pain sharp behind his eyes. "That is not what I meant." Harper's voice dropped. "Then what did you mean?" Ethan's hands curled into fists at his sides, then loosened again. "I meant I am scared," he said, and the admission sounded like it scraped on the way out. "I am scared of changing Ava's world again. I am scared of making a choice that costs her peace." Harper's chest tightened anger, shifting into something softer and more dangerous. "And you think leaving her behind in Denver is less of a change than letting someone in?" Ethan shook his head once. "Boston is planned. Boston is structured. Ava needs that." Harper stepped closer, her voice steady but quiet. "Ava needs love. She needs honesty. She needs people who stay." Ethan flinched at the word stay. Harper felt heat behind her eyes and refused to let it spill. She turned back to the box and closed the flaps, pressing down with both hands. "I cannot do this anymore," Harper said. "I cannot wake up every day and wonder which version of you I will get. The man who brings coffee, the man who asks me to be careful, the man who holds my wrist and then lets go." Ethan stared at her silent. Harper lifted her last box and set it on the floor by the door. The movement felt final. Ethan's voice came out tight. "So that is it. You are just gone." Harper looked at him. "You made your choice." Ethan's eyes flickered with frustration. "It is not that simple." Harper's mouth curved into something bitter. "It never is with you." Ethan's shoulders sagged a fraction, and for a moment he looked exhausted enough to be human. "Harper," he said softer now. Harper did not let herself move toward him. "I wish you and Ava happiness," she said. The words were clean, but they scraped her throat. "I do. I just cannot keep standing in the middle of your fear." Ethan's jaw tightened again, the CEO returning like armor. He nodded once, stiff. "Good luck at Summit Ridge." He turned toward the door. Harper's voice stopped him. "Ethan." He paused without turning. Harper swallowed hard. "Take care of Ava. She is special." Ethan's shoulders went still. When he finally turned back, something in his face looked fragile, like a crack in glass that could spread if touched. "I know," he said quietly. Then he added almost too low to hear, "So are you." Harper did not answer. She could not trust her voice. Ethan opened the door and walked out. His footsteps faded down the hallway, steady and controlled, but Harper could see it in her mind anyway, the way he would carry that conversation like weight. Harper stood alone in her office, surrounded by empty shelves and clean desk lines, and for the first time since the gala, she let herself close her eyes for a long breath. When she opened them, she picked up the boxes one by one and carried them out without looking back. Harper carried the last box up the stairs to her apartment with her shoulders burning and her jaw set. The hallway smelled like someone's laundry detergent and a neighbor's dinner. Normal life. The kind that kept moving even when yours had just been cracked open. She nudged her door shut with her foot, set the box down, and stood there for a moment, breathing through her nose like she could force her heartbeat back into a sensible rhythm. Her living room looked smaller, with boxes stacked along the wall. Paperwork. Desk supplies. a framed photo of her parents, the little plant wrapped in brown paper. She stared at the stack and felt a dull ache behind her ribs. She had built order out of chaos for other people. Now her own space looked like a warehouse. Harper crossed to the kitchen, filled a glass with water, and drank it in 3 swallows. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Lila. Lila, I am sorry. You did not deserve any of this. If you need anything, I am here. Harper read it twice, then typed back. Harper, thank you. Keep your head down at work. Protect your peace. She set the phone face down. Her eyes drifted to her wallet on the counter. Inside it, folded tight, was the sticky note Ethan had left for her after Ava declared her office too empty. Harper did not take it out. She did not trust what her face would do if she read it again. She moved around the apartment doing small things that felt like control. She lined up the boxes. She taped the top of one. She wiped a clean counter that did not need wiping. When she ran out of tasks, she stood in the center of the room and listened to the hum of the refrigerator. A knock sounded at the door. Harper froze. Another knock, firmer this time, followed by the doorbell. Harper walked to the door and looked through the peephole. A small figure stood in the hallway, hood up, backpack straps in both hands, chin lifted like she was facing a tribunal instead of a neighbor. Harper's breath caught. She opened the door. Ava, Harper said. Ava Cole stood there in her planet hoodie, cheeks pink from the cold eyes, sharp and direct. In one hand she held a small box, the kind you might get from a museum gift shop. In the other, her phone. You moved your things, Ava said immediately, gaze flicking past Harper into the apartment. Harper blinked. How did you get here? Ava raised her phone like evidence. I ordered a car. Harper's stomach dropped. You did what? A rideshare, Ava corrected, as if Harper had used the wrong scientific term. Dad does not know. Harper stepped back quickly, letting Ava inside, then closed the door with a careful hand. Her mind raced through a list of dangers she did not want to name. Her voice came out steady by force. Ava, you cannot do that. Ava shrugged out of her backpack. I can. I did. The driver asked if I was lost. I said no. Harper crouched to Ava's height, trying to keep her face calm. Your dad must be terrified. Ava's eyes narrowed slightly. He is sad. Harper swallowed. Why did you come here? Ava looked up at Harper with the clarity that made adults feel exposed. Because you broke him. Harper's throat tightened. Ava, sweetheart, that is not fair. Ava did not flinch. Dad is crying. The words hit Harper like a cold wave. She stood and reached for her phone with fingers that did not feel like her own. I am calling him, Harper said. Ava nodded once satisfied. Good, you should. Harper dialed Ethan. He answered on the first ring. Harper. His voice was tight with immediate alarm, like he had been holding his breath since she left the office. Ava is here, Harper said. Silence, then a sharp inhale. What do you mean she is there? She is in my apartment, Harper said, keeping her eyes on Ava. She is safe. She took a rideshare. Ethan's voice turned rough. Ava took a rideshare alone. Harper closed her eyes for a second. Yes. A sound came through the line, like Ethan moving too fast in a room. Do not let her out of your sight. Do you hear me? I hear you, Harper said. I'm coming right now, Ethan said. Stay with her. Lock the door. I have her, Harper said softly. She is right here. Ethan ended the call without goodbye. Harper set the phone down and turned to Ava. Your dad is on his way. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. Ava shrugged. I'm already in trouble. That is not the point. Harper took a slow breath. Then what is the point? Ava walked into the living room, scanning the boxes like she was reading a map. She stopped at the one with Harper's plant and poked the paper gently. You are leaving, Ava said. Harper's chest ached. Yes. Ava looked back at her. Dad does not want you to leave. Harper leaned against the back of a chair, steadying herself. Your dad is making choices. Adults do that. Ava's gaze sharpened. Adults make wrong choices. Harper let out a quiet breath that almost became a laugh, but did not. Sometimes. Ava held up the small box she brought. I brought you something. Harper blinked. What is it? Ava opened the lid. Inside was a tiny rock mounted in foam with a printed label, meteorite fragment. Harper stared. You like space, Ava said. You said space is quiet. This was in space. It is quiet. Harper's eyes stung. That is very thoughtful. Ava nodded, satisfied with the transaction. Then her face tightened. Dad is leaving. He says it is for me. But he is lying. Harper's throat tightened. Ava, your dad has been planning Boston for a long time. Ava shook her head hard. No, he has been planning not to be hurt for a long time. Harper stared at her. Ava stepped closer, voice lower. He cries when he thinks I am asleep. Harper felt something break open in her chest. He told you that. Ava frowned. He did not tell me. I observed. I told you. Data is useful. Harper pressed her lips together, trying to hold her expression steady. Ava, your dad loves you very much. Ava's eyes flicked to the folded boxes again. He loves you too. Harper's voice came out quiet. Adult relationships are complicated. Ava looked at her like Harper had just said the sky was green. No, they are not. Harper swallowed. They can be. Ava's chin lifted. You love someone or you do not. Dad loves you. He is scared because my mom left. He thinks if he loves you, you will leave too. Harper's breath caught. She felt the weight of those words settle in the room, heavy and simple. Ava Harper started, but she did not know where to put the rest of the sentence. A frantic knock hit the door. Harper moved quickly, unlocked it, and opened. Ethan stood in the hallway, breathless, coat half-buttoned, hair messed up as if he had run his fingers through it too many times. His eyes were wide, scanning past Harper into the apartment. Ava, he said, voice hoarse. Ava appeared beside Harper, backpack still on the floor. Hello. Ethan crossed the threshold in 2 strides and dropped to his knees in front of her. He wrapped his arms around Ava like he was holding the world in place. Ava stood stiff for a second, then patted his shoulder once, not quite comfortable with the intensity, but not pulling away. You cannot do that, Ethan said into her hoodie voice, shaking with controlled panic. You cannot disappear. Do you understand what you did to me? Ava's tone remained calm. You were scared. That means you care. Ethan pulled back just enough to look at her. His eyes were bright with something he refused to let spill. That is not the lesson. Ava stared at him. I had to fix it. Ethan's jaw tightened. You are not supposed to fix adult problems. Ava's eyes flicked toward Harper. Someone has to. Ethan stood still, keeping one hand on Ava's shoulder, then turned to Harper. His gaze landed on the boxes, the taped seams, the plant wrapped in paper. His face tightened and his voice lowered. I am sorry, he said. Harper kept her arms at her sides, palms damp. She is safe. Ethan nodded once, but his eyes did not leave Harper. Thank you. Ava stepped between them like a small referee. You are both being stupid. Ethan exhaled sharply. Ava. Ava did not back down. You love Harper. Harper loves you. You are both acting like you do not. Harper felt a small unwanted smile pull at her mouth. Ethan saw it and flinched as if the sight hurt. I am taking her home, Ethan said, voice tight. Ava folded her arms. You are not fixing it. Ethan's eyes closed for a moment. When he opened them, he looked at Harper again, and the exhaustion there was raw. I will handle this, he said, but his tone did not sound convincing even to him. Harper's voice came out softer than she intended. She is never a bother. Ethan's throat moved. He nodded, quick and stiff. He guided Ava toward the door. Ava walked 2 steps, then stopped, turned, and went back to her backpack. She unzipped it and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. She marched to Harper and pressed it into her hand. Harper unfolded it slowly. A child's drawing in dark marker and colored pencil. 3 figures under a sky packed with stars. 1 tall man, 1 small girl, 1 woman with long hair colored yellow. Above them, in careful block letters, home. Harper's vision blurred. She blinked hard, forcing focus. Ava watched her face with clinical attention. "That is my hypothesis," Ava said. "It is correct." Harper's voice caught. "Ava." Ava's expression softened by a fraction the closest she came to pleading. "Do not leave without saying the true thing." Ethan's head snapped toward Ava. "Ava, enough." Ava turned to him unbothered. "No." Ethan looked at Harper, then at the drawing, and something in his face cracked. He reached for Ava's backpack, slung it over his shoulder, and opened the door. "Come on," he said to Ava, voice rough. Ava stepped into the hallway, then looked back at Harper one last time. "Keep the meteorite," Ava said. "It does not belong in a box." Harper nodded, unable to trust her voice. Ethan paused in the doorway, hand on the frame like he wanted to say something that would change the shape of the room. His eyes held Harper's for a moment that felt too long for breathing. Then he looked away, guided Ava down the hall, and disappeared into the elevator. Harper closed the door slowly. The latch clicked. The apartment fell silent again, but it was a different silence now. She stood in the middle of her living room with the drawing in her hand, the meteorite box on the table, and her packed life stacked against the wall. Her fingers traced the word home once lightly, as if it might vanish if she pressed too hard. Harper did not sleep. The meteorite sat on her kitchen table like a small, stubborn heart. Ava's drawing lay beside it, the paper smoothed flat the word home, dark and certain, under a sky full of colored stars. Harper kept reaching for it without meaning to, tracing the letters with the pad of her finger, then pulling her hand back as if she had touched something sacred. Around midnight, she tried to pack again. She lifted a box, set it down, then stared at her taped seams like they belonged to someone else. The apartment felt too quiet. Every sound was too sharp. The refrigerator clicked. A car passed outside. Somewhere in the building, a neighbor's television murmured and then went silent. Harper washed a perfectly clean mug just to hear water run. When she finally stopped moving, she stood by the window and looked out at Denver's lights. The city was spread wide and steady, indifferent to contracts and rumors and a man who kept choosing fear with both hands. Her phone remained face down. She did not check it. She did not need a notification to know that Ethan Cole had a flight scheduled, that a pen would hover over paper, that an entire life could be reduced to one signature. Harper grabbed her keys. The drive downtown was almost empty. Streetlights slid across her windshield in slow repeating patterns. Snow sat in the corners of sidewalks like forgotten sugar. She kept her hands at 10 and 2, as if the only way to stay calm was to behave like a driving instructor was watching. Cole and Whitmore's tower rose ahead, the top floors lit in squares, a few windows still awake. The lobby doors opened with a soft whoosh. The night guard looked up from his desk, surprised. "Miss Lane," he said. Harper gave him a small nod. "I need to see Ethan." The guard hesitated. His eyes flicked to her hands, to her face, to the empty lobby behind her. "It is late." "I know," Harper said. "He is still here." The guard held her gaze, then stood and pressed a button. "Go ahead." The elevator ride felt too long. Harper watched the numbers climb her reflection faint in the metal doors. She looked steady. She did not feel steady. When the elevator opened on the executive floor, the hallway was dim, lit by low wall sconces. Harper's heels sounded loud on the carpet. At the far end, light spilled from beneath Ethan's office door, a thin, bright line across the floor. She stopped a few feet away. For a moment, she could hear nothing. Then, faintly, the sound she remembered from the first night. Paper shifting. A pen set down, a breath. Harper lifted her hand. It hovered. She almost laughed at the repetition, at the way her body had learned this posture, palm, suspended, heart demanding a decision. She knocked once. A chair scraped. Footsteps approached. Ethan's voice came through the door, quieter than she expected. "Come in." Harper turned the handle and stepped inside. Ethan stood behind his desk, sleeves rolled up, suit jacket draped over the chair. The office looked like it had been lived in for days. A coffee cup, a stack of printed reports. Ava's framed photo near the monitor, her face turned up toward a ceiling of stars. On the desk, centered like an accusation, was the Boston transfer agreement. Ethan's pen lay beside it. His eyes widened when he saw Harper. Surprise first, then something careful held tight. "Harper," he said, as if saying her name could keep the room from shifting. Harper did not take off her coat. She did not sit. She walked to the edge of the desk close enough to see the bold heading and the empty signature line beneath Ethan's name. "Do not sign it," she said. Ethan's mouth tightened. "What are you doing here?" Harper's throat worked around a lump. "I could not let you leave without saying the true thing." Ethan's gaze flicked down to the document, then back to her face. "This is not a good idea." Harper let out a breath that sounded more like a laugh than she intended. "That is your favorite sentence." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Harper." She stepped closer, hands curling at her sides. "I love you." The words landed clean, no decoration, no safety net. Ethan went still. The air in the office felt thicker, warmer, as if the building had shut out the rest of the world for them. Harper kept going before fear could steal her voice. "I have loved you since the day you walked into my office and laughed like you forgot you were supposed to be untouchable. I love the way you listen to Ava, like her words are worth more than your schedule. I love the way you pretend you are made of steel when you are really made of worry and tenderness and stubborn hope." Ethan's throat moved. He stared at her like he was watching a door open to a room he had kept locked for years. "You do not know what you are saying," he said, but his voice was soft, and it did not sound like disbelief. It sounded like fear. Harper's eyes stung. "I know exactly what I am saying." Ethan took one slow step out from behind the desk. "Harper, this move is for Ava. Boston is stability. It is resources. It is structure. You do not understand what it costs her when things change." Harper nodded once. "I do understand. I saw it in her face when she talked about rappers being too loud. I saw it when she told you people leave when they take too long. I understand her need for a world that makes sense." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then you understand why I have to do this." Harper's voice lowered. "No, I understand why you want to do this." Ethan's eyes flashed. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you are trying to outrun a wound," Harper said. "You think if you keep everything planned, everything structured, nothing can hurt Ava again, and nothing can hurt you." Ethan's breath caught. His hands flexed once, then clenched. Harper's voice softened. "Boston will not fix what scares you. It will only move the fear to a different time zone." Ethan's mouth twitched a ghost of a smile that could not quite survive. "You drove here to insult my coping skills." Harper swallowed. "I drove here because Ava came to my apartment today." Ethan's face changed instantly. "What did she say?" Harper's eyes filled, but she did not let tears fall. "She said you cry when you think she is asleep. She said you love me. She said you are scared because her mother left." Ethan's eyes went dark. His voice came out rough. "She should not be carrying that." "She is not carrying it," Harper said. "She is naming it, like she names everything." Harper reached into her bag and pulled out the folded drawing. She held it out between them. Ethan stared at it. His face tightened at the word home, at the three figures under a sky of stars. For a moment, he looked like he could not breathe. Harper's voice shook despite her effort. "She gave me this. She told me not to leave without saying the true thing. So I am here. This is the true thing." Ethan took the paper carefully like it might tear if he held it wrong. His fingers trembled. He looked down at Ava's block letters, then up at Harper. "You cannot do this," he said, but there was no force behind it now. Harper stepped closer, close enough to see the faint red at the rim of his eyes. "I am not asking you to choose me over Ava. I am asking you to stop choosing fear over both of us." Ethan's jaw worked. His gaze flicked to the contract on the desk. "If I stay, the board will come for me." Harper's voice went quiet. "Is that what this is really about?" Ethan did not answer. Harper held his gaze. "Ethan, look at me." He did. Harper took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. "If Boston is truly what you want, then sign it. I will walk away and I will not come back. I will not call. I will not wait in hallways. I will not keep pretending I can live on scraps." Ethan's eyes widened. "Harper, do not do that. Do not do what she whispered. Tell the truth." Ethan looked like he might reach for her, then stopped himself, hands hovering in the air between them like he did not trust them. Then he exhaled long and tired, and the words finally came out without armor. "Grant set it up," Ethan said. Harper went still. "What?" Ethan's gaze flicked toward the glass wall of his office, toward the city beyond it. Boston. The chair. The timing. He orchestrated it. He has been pushing it forward harder than anyone, making it look like a rescue plan for Ava, making it look like the only responsible path. Harper's stomach turned cold. Why? Ethan's mouth tightened. Because if I am gone, he has room. He has control. He can reshape the company without me getting in the way. Harper's voice barely worked. And you were going to sign anyway. Ethan's eyes closed for a moment. When they opened, he looked stripped down to the man underneath. I thought it was the safest option. I thought if I left, Ava would have a fresh start, and I would stop fighting the board every day. Harper shook her head slowly. That is not safety. That is surrender. Ethan stared at the drawing in his hands, then at Harper. I did not know how to protect her and still want something for myself. Harper stepped closer until she was right in front of him. She lifted her hand and touched his chest lightly, just once feeling the steady beat beneath his shirt. You do not have to stop wanting, she said. You just have to stop running. Ethan's breath hitched. His eyes held hers raw and searching. What if you leave? He whispered. What if I let you in and you leave anyway? Harper's voice broke into something soft and certain. Then I will have been brave. And you will have been brave. But I am not here to leave. Ethan stared at her for one long beat as if he was deciding whether to believe in air. Then he stepped forward and closed the space between them. His hands came up gentle but sure, cupping her face like he had been careful with everything too long. His mouth found hers with a hunger that felt like relief, like finally exhaling after months of holding breath. Harper's hand slid to his shoulders, gripping fabric, anchoring him there. The kiss was not pretty. It was honest. It tasted like late-night coffee and regret and something bright pushing through. When they pulled apart, both of them breathed hard. Ethan rested his forehead against hers, eyes closed. I did not sign it, he whispered. Harper's eyes closed to relief and ache tangled together. Then do not. Ethan opened his eyes and looked at her, and the look held a decision that was finally his. He turned his head toward the desk where the Boston agreement waited, still blank at the bottom. His hand reached out not for the pen, but for the paper. He pulled it toward the edge of the desk and flipped it face down. The motion was quiet, deliberate, final in a way that made Harper's throat tighten. Ethan looked back at her. I want you here, he said, with Ava, with me. Harper swallowed, eyes shining. Say it again. Ethan's mouth softened. I want you here. Harper let out a shaky breath and nodded once, as if her body needed permission to believe. Outside the office, the hallway remained still. Inside, the city lights pressed against the glass, bright and distant. Ethan's hands found Harper's, threading their fingers together with careful certainty. On the desk, the contract stayed face down unsigned. Ethan kept Harper's hands in his as if letting go would undo the last 5 minutes. His office felt smaller than it ever had, the air warm from their breath. The city lights pressed against the glass like a second audience. Harper stared at the contract face down on the desk. What about Grant? She asked. Ethan's jaw tightened. He thinks he owns the board. He thinks he owns me. Harper's voice stayed calm, but her eyes were bright. Does he? Ethan turned, crossed to his credenza and pulled a slim folder from a drawer. He set it on the desk and flipped it open. Inside were printouts, emails, meeting summaries, and an IT log report with timestamps highlighted in yellow. Harper leaned in, scanning the pages. An email thread from Grant, pushing the Boston chair with a careful urgency. Another message to Diane Keller suggesting tightening access and optics for risk management. A draft resolution labeled Interim Executive Authority with Grant's name typed neatly beside it. Harper's stomach dropped. This is a takeover. Ethan nodded once. He used Ava as the excuse. He used you as the leverage. Harper looked up. You had this the whole time. Ethan's eyes darkened with shame and anger mixed together. I was collecting it, and I kept telling myself I would act when the timing was right. Harper's voice softened, and now Ethan reached for the Boston agreement, lifted it, and tore it cleanly down the middle. The paper made a sharp sound louder than it should have been. He tore it again into quarters and let the pieces fall into the trash. Harper's breath caught. She watched the pieces settle as if they were something living that had finally stopped moving. A sudden commotion in the hallway broke the silence. Voices, then quick footsteps. The door opened without a knock. Nora stood in the doorway, cheeks flushed, coat half on. Ava was beside her, chin lifted, eyes fixed on Harper with blunt hope. "I'm so sorry," Nora blurted. She insisted. I tried to stop her. Ava ignored Nora completely. "Did you fix it?" she asked. Harper crouched, automatically meeting Ava at eye level. "We are working on it." Ava's gaze flicked to Ethan, then to the trash. "I see paper pieces," she observed. "That is a good sign." Ethan let out a laugh that sounded startled, like it came from somewhere under his ribs where it had been trapped. "You are supposed to be asleep." Ava shrugged. "Sleep is inefficient when there is a crisis." Ethan's expression softened. "Nora, can you take her home? I will be there soon." Nora nodded quickly, relief plain on her face. "Of course." Ava did not move right away. She looked at Harper again. "You kept the meteorite." Harper nodded. "It is on my table." Ava's face relaxed by a fraction. "Good, it belongs in the open." Then Ava glanced up at Ethan, voice quieter. "You were going to leave." Ethan swallowed. "I thought I had to." Ava's eyes narrowed. "You did not." Ethan's hand found her shoulder and squeezed gently. "Go with Nora. I will be home in a little bit." Ava hesitated, then did something rare. She leaned into Ethan's side for one brief second, a small press of trust. Then she turned and walked out with Nora already correcting something Nora said under her breath. When the door closed again, the office fell quiet in a different way. Not fragile, not waiting, just clear. Ethan turned back to Harper. "Board meeting at 8, he said. "You will be there. Not as a rumor, as my HR director." Harper straightened. "They are going to come for me." "They can try," Ethan replied. "I built this company. I do not borrow my authority from Grant." Harper held his gaze. "If we do this, we do it clean." Ethan nodded. "Clean." The next morning, the executive conference room filled before the clock hit 8. Diane Keller sat near the screen, posture rigid. Two board members Harper recognized from investor briefings sat with their hands folded, faces carefully neutral. Grant Whitmore arrived last, polished and smiling as if the room belonged to him. His smile wavered when he saw Harper seated beside Ethan, her binder open, her badge visible. Grant recovered quickly. "Ethan," he said warmly. "Harper, good to see you." Ethan did not return the warmth. "We are going to start," he said. The room settled. Laptops opened. A recording indicator blinked on the conference system. Ethan clicked a remote. The screen displayed the interim executive authority draft. Grant's smile tightened. "What is this?" Ethan's voice stayed steady. "It is a document with your name on it." Diane shifted in her chair. "Ethan, we do not have time for distractions. Boston Logistics need final approval." Ethan raised a hand. "Boston is off the table." Grant's eyes sharpened. "You cannot do that unilaterally." Ethan turned slightly, meeting the eyes of each board member. "I am not doing it unilaterally. I am doing it as the founder with controlling shares and as the CEO who refuses to be maneuvered out of his own company." Grant's smile broke for a second, revealing something colder beneath. This is emotional. Ava needs stability. Ethan's jaw flexed. Do not use my daughter's name in your argument. Harper kept her posture calm. She slid a packet across the table, one copy to each board member. Email threads, IT logs, the access reduction records. A timeline of rumor escalation that lined up with Grant's communications. The room grew still as pages turned. One board member, a man with silver hair and tired eyes, looked up first. This shows you requested credential changes under liaison access, he said to Diane. Diane's face drained. Grant advised me on risk mitigation. Ethan's gaze did not leave Grant. He advised you to sideline my HR director and undermine internal accountability so he could pressure me into leaving. Grant gave a soft laugh that did not hold humor. You are building a story. Ethan clicked again. The screen changed to an email from Grant to an investor contact referencing leadership transition and Ethan's planned relocation as a near certainty. A tight silence followed. Grant's eyes flicked around the room searching for support. Finding none, his smile turned rigid. You are overreacting, he said. Ethan leaned forward slightly. You tried to take my company. Grant's voice sharpened. I tried to protect it. Harper spoke for the first time, voice calm and clear. Your actions created reputational risk, internal instability, and a hostile work environment through insinuations and access manipulation. Grant's eyes flashed toward her. Of course, HR would call it that. Harper did not blink. Of course, someone with power would dismiss it. The silver-haired board member closed his packet slowly. Grant, he said, this is serious. We need your resignation. Grant's jaw tightened. You cannot be serious. Another board member, a woman with a crisp blazer and sharper eyes, nodded. We are. Effective immediately. Grant looked at Ethan one last time, anger and disbelief battling on his face. You are choosing chaos, he hissed. Ethan's voice stayed low. I am choosing truth. Grant stood chair-scraping back and walked out without another word. The door closed behind him with a quiet finality. Diane Keller's shoulders sagged. I did not know, she whispered. Ethan's gaze softened only slightly. You knew enough to let it happen. The board moved quickly after that. Legal counsel was called. A formal internal review was scheduled. Ethan announced a restructuring that reduced board interference in daily operations and strengthened compliance systems that Harper had been trying to build all along. When the meeting ended, Ethan and Harper stepped into the hallway together. The air felt lighter, like a storm had moved on. Ethan looked at her. Are you still leaving for Summit Ridge? Harper held his gaze. Not if I can do my job here with dignity. Ethan nodded once. You can. 6 months later, City Park was green and bright under a wide Colorado sky. A company picnic spread across the grass with folding tables, coolers, and children running between blankets. Harper sat with Ava near the edge of the field, both of them lying back and looking up. That cloud looks like a spaceship, Ava said, pointing. Harper narrowed her eyes. I see it, and that one looks like a helmet. Ava nodded seriously. A helmet is important. Space is dangerous. Footsteps approached. Ethan lowered himself onto the grass beside them with 3 drinks in his hands. He handed Harper one, then Ava, careful to keep the straw wrapper from crinkling too loudly. What are my favorite girls doing? He asked. Identifying threats, Ava said matter-of-factly. Ethan smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. Good, carry on. Ava sprang up a moment later to join a group of kids playing tag, leaving Harper and Ethan in a pocket of quiet. Ethan turned to Harper. Happy, he asked. Harper leaned into his shoulder. Yes. Ethan's hand slid into his pocket. I had a speech planned, he admitted, a nervous laugh slipping out. About you changing everything. About you seeing Ava clearly. About you making me brave enough to stay. Harper's breath caught when he pulled out a small velvet box. Ethan opened it. Inside was a sapphire ring, deep blue, steady as the sky. Harper Lane, he said, voice soft but sure. Will you marry us, me and Ava? The package deal. Harper's eyes filled. She nodded once, then again, yes. Ava appeared as if summoned by instinct, sprinting back with grass stains on her knees. She stopped short, eyes locking on the ring. "Does this mean Harper stays forever?" she demanded. Ethan's eyes shone. "It does." Ava's face split into a wide smile, pure and unguarded. She threw her arms around both of them, hugging tight like she could lock the moment into place. Harper laughed through tears, holding them both, feeling the weight and warmth of what home had meant on a piece of paper, and what it meant now, real and breathing. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would also love to know where you are watching from, so drop your city or country in the comments.